Hello, my name is Greg Lehman. Welcome to Moonbeams. My guest today is Rosa Castellano. How's it going?
Hey, I'm super excited to be here and to talk to you.
This has been a blast. So I'll share that. Yeah, we got on the call about 25 minutes ago, and it's just been we have too much to talk about. And I'm so excited that now I could press record and just let it flow from here. We have a lot of common interests. And yeah, it's a gift to talk. But so we'll start off here with what is exciting you most about poetry at the moment? We'll take this in a couple different directions, but please, Rosa.
Um, I would have to say, I it's the community. Um, Sometimes when, bad things happen, there's this idea that people rise to the challenge. And I don't know that that's true for this moment necessarily with regards to poets because we're always here and we're always rising to the challenge. But I think people maybe are looking in our direction a little bit more. Um, where I live in Richmond, there are probably 8 groups organizing readings, and they're doing all kinds of fun things, like poetry and burlesque. There's a series that invites musicians to score poems or essays. And so they're creating these intersections for folks to come and stand in, but also like to casting a net maybe for a broader audience and bringing folks in to readings into places where they can have experiences with poetry. And that's really exciting, both in terms of like the style of it, it's like exciting, like what music and poetry, huh? That sounds so fun. But also like what it means to be in a room with a bunch of folks who are having an experience with poetry, and the potential that happens when people gather and listen together, even if it's just for a few minutes. And I do think fiction writers might be like, not so much, but I think that poems in particular make a certain kind of space for listeners, and that you don't have to pay attention for 20 minutes. You only need like three, like sometimes you only need like a minute and a half. And if you miss that minute and a half, they read another poem. And so you have the opportunity to get back on board. Do you know what I mean? And so the opportunity to reach folks sort of where they are, in whatever moment they bring, is there. And I think that's kind of wonderful. And it's happening. And it's so important that it's happening right now in particular. But yeah, I think that's exciting.
100%. And then if I could pull the thread a little bit on speaking to like the practical aspects of a poem, where it is just like this, it's like a sack lunch or something like that carries something nourishing, And you were speaking to, earlier when we were talking, you were speaking to like one meeting where it's like it went well,
Mhm.
and then at the end it kind of like hit like kind of a downturn a little bit, and you felt like a poem would be something great to bring in and being like, here, you can carry this forward. This can, serve a practical purpose. If you could speak a little bit more on that.
Yeah, well, I do. I think poems and poets can be in service to their communities. That, just this idea that yes, it's beautiful. And some people have like hello voices, like super, like sort of performative, wonderful, like you want to sit there and you want to listen and you want to take it in. But more than that, more than entertainment, I guess is what I'm trying to say. We can provide a service. Poems, and I know I feel like it's always hanky to be like, oh, poems offer healing, but they do. They actually do. And it's not really what, like me as a person, like this, like it's not about that. It's about the alchemy of moments when people engage with work. Do you know what I mean? And are able to access something in that poem that's just for them. And, you write poems, I write poems, and I can't write to that. Like I wish I could, because if I did, I would write the most anti-racist, like, and try to change everything, but it doesn't work like that. What happens is we bring ourselves to the work, and if the work is there, then people have an opportunity to be met. That meeting that you were talking about, was a teach-in for Palestine, and it was really positive. Things were going really well, and then as it like in our regular lives now, the news cycle took like a wild downturn. It might have been the night that we bombed Iran or something. Like just went like something out of the blue that was crazy and terrible. And what I was saying is, I really believe that poetry could have saved that night, that ending with a poem. And I'm not saying I know which poem or trying to say my poem or anything like that, but poetry is a place that we can put things when we're afraid, that gives us solace and comfort. It offers solutions and alternatives. It offers hope in a way that just like, hey, everybody, like that doesn't actually quite cut it. And part of it has to do with the way poems are intimate and they ask for intimacy in return. And when we bring that, then there's the opportunity for curiosity. And I really do believe that without people getting curious, we cannot change. Like, I mean, you've watched, I imagine, numerous documentaries on a variety of topics with folks, and you're like, see, this is happening, or Jesus. Like, you can't look at your Instagram feed right now without the truth of what's happening. That's knowledge. Do you know what I mean? Like, to that idea that if we knew what was happening, people would, do something different. We know what's happening. And the change that we want isn't, that's not what we're seeing. And I think that if people could get curious about the responses that they have in their bodies, then maybe they could understand something, whatever that is. And I hate to be so vague, but it's such a personal thing. Like, understand what they need to understand in order to make some changes. And that's why I write poems. I write them for myself, but I also write them as a member of this community because I care about the outcomes for myself, my kids, the people that I love, the people I'm in community with, because I think so many of us are working toward change and wanting change. And I think that poems are doorways that folks can walk through to get to that change, if we think about them that way, not just as doorways, yes, because they totally are, but also as things that can be in service, of service, that can be useful, not just beautiful, not just entertaining, but useful. Um, Yay, poems.
Outstanding. Frame all of that. Thank you so much for all of that. And yeah, underlying, the practical aspects of poetry, I think is essential. It's something I'm trying to do with this project, and it dovetails well into my next question here. Which poets are most impactful in getting you to become a poet?
I have to say that the younger version of myself who started writing poetry and like started on this road and went and got an MFA and did all of that. I think it was which is the Japanese for love. Yes, yes, okay. Um, Her work with the persona poem, well, it's outstanding. Like, it's just beautiful and real, and all the stuff she does with language, where she creates a scene in your head and you're like, oh, I'm totally here in this room with you now. And I'm feeling this thing and I know this thing in a way that I didn't before. So that's awesome. But also, the idea of what a persona poem can mean to a young person. I mean, old people also, like, persona poems have ridiculous amounts of value. They create empathy and they allow us to walk in each other's shoes and they allow us to tell stories from a place that gives sometimes the poet the necessary distance in order to be vulnerable, you know what I mean? In order to show up for that moment. Um, and for me, I think I really did that. It gave me her work gave me a kind of permission in my own work. And I don't actually have persona poems in my collection. But I wrote a ton of persona poems when I was younger, and like some of them got published. Like, they're real. It's not just like stepping stones, but I ended up writing a poem play, and that's where those persona poems show up. It's these two characters. But thinking about persona poems as embodiment poems, as an invitation to really be present with another person in a way that's different than I think poems do. Um, Anyways, I credit I with all of that because I would not have, I don't think I would have gone down that road without um, her dedication to that particular style. Like I had the new selected, like it was like a new selected collection, that big thick red book. And so it's like page after page after page of working in this particular way. That was really kind of wildly impactful. And I still recommend it. It's still valuable now. I think it
Oh,
came out in like 1990 or something, but yeah.
yeah, no, I'm glad you bring her up because I haven't heard enough people bring her up. And she is volcanic and
Yes.
searing and heartbreaking. And yeah,
Yes.
speaking
Yes.
speaking to just the strength of the persona poem, she would get into, political figures and like a method actor put on that mask
Yes.
and show us such ugliness, so show us such sharp edges fearlessly. Like
Mhm.
it certainly charged me. I'm glad it did the same for you. And just it really sets a high bar on bravery, like you're speaking to as well. And you've used it to success in your career. I love that.
No, I like that you brought up bravery. I think that's so important. And I think again, I feel like sometimes there are these words like love or bravery, and people, as soon as you say them, people are like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's, like they blow it off. And yet it's so wildly important. Um, Most of us have moments every single day that require us to be brave. And especially as writers, and I just think when we see it being done, we have it modeled for us. And she's not the only person doing it. There's so many poets now being brave with their work and their words. I don't know. I just think it's important. That's all. I'm with you on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like, yeah, just to put a pin on her, like I just to think about like if it doesn't seem like she ever had any doubt, when she's
No.
writing, there's such confidence in her voice. She's roaring, in her
Yeah.
voice. But you have to imagine like any hesitation that comes in my day or in your or anybody's day is a dare to be brave like that, is a calling to rise to the occasion, hopefully, and
Yeah.
do something strong. So I love that. But yeah, so moving from there, again, kind of on a theme here. If you could change something about how culture views poetry today, what would it be?
This may be local to my community, but I feel like I would love for poetry to come down off the pedestal that so many folks have it on. And I think it's like fine art in that sense that there are the folks who put fine art and poetry on a pedestal are the folks who tend to turn away and say it's not for me. There's nothing in there in that museum, or there's poems, oh, they're not accessible, or those aren't for me. Um, when really it's for everybody, like I wish that people would come to poetry readings in droves and bring their most open-hearted self with the idea not about being afraid. Like it's so wild. Where was I? I was at a like a writer's retreat at the VCCA, which is a thing here in Virginia, but like people come from all over. Like there's somebody from Alaska and I don't know where else, lots of places. But the point is, it was a mix of writers, composers, and visual artists. And we each, got a chance to share some of our work. And I sometimes, not always, but sometimes do a little disclaimer and remind folks in the audience that the poems I'm about to read, aren't for me, they're for you, which means that you can have whatever experience you want, that you can use the next 15 minutes to close your eyes. You can, like, don't drift away, don't drift away, listen to the words, don't listen, like, how do you bring yourself to this moment? And I think so many folks have ideas about what's required of them at poetry readings or what poetry books require of them, like some sort of focused attention and possibly note taking, which are totally fine things to bring. But they're not required. You can dip in and out of a poetry book, leave it in your bathroom, read 3 lines, read a one poem, read the middle poem, read the last poem. Like there aren't any rules, but there aren't any rules because the rules are up to you. Do you know what I mean? Like they're up to the person experiencing the poem or the person having the encounter with the book or the work. And I think that's something I wish was different. I wish that people knew, like food, maybe, you know, like I think of the culinary arts as also an art. Like that hamburger, the way that it looks, that's for you. And you know that. Like you said, I wanted it medium rare, not medium well. Do you know what I mean? And when you meet, like, I'm saying a burger in part because I'm hungry. It's 5 o'clock my time
Yeah.
and I'm hungry. But like I would like to be met with a hamburger, basically, is what I'm saying. But like when you are served the thing that you have ordered, the thing you asked for, do you know? It's for you. And while maybe you didn't ask for a poem about Chapel Roan, or maybe you didn't ask for a poem about, you know, whatever it is, um, you are in a chair now. You know, like you're there at a reading, and these poems, they're for you. And I just wish that people knew that because I think it would make the interaction a little easier. You know, that's all. Yeah, I think that's it.
Amazing. Yeah, disarming the should around it or any kind of expectation around what this is. It's like you're a legitimate person and this is for you. I
Yes.
love that. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you. Um, with that, the word association game is next up here. You ready to go?
Yes, that sounds fun.
Cool, cool. All right. 10 words here. Publication.
Oh, please.
Home.
Messy.
Pelican.
Brief, I think.
East Coast.
West Coast.
West Coast.
Tacos.
Voting.
I have lots of anger. Like lots of anger just came up for me. And the word no is coming up, but not because I'm not going to vote. I'm just I'm feeling some rejection around our processes and government.
Yeah, yeah. Why? Yeah. But, excellent, excellent answer. Apple.
Pear,
Teaching.
tired,
Summer.
fall.
And hope.
Interestingly, Obama, but also untrue. Like, there's no truth in that for me at this time.
Gotcha.
Maybe. Sorry. I
No problem.
feel
No
like I
problem.
have to justify. I feel like I have to justify that.
No, no, no. Outstanding. You passed. There you go.
Yay!
Very cool. And if you could share a recent line that you read, something remarkable that you'd like to share here.
Um, all right. Well, I wasn't sure what I was gonna be thinking about. Lately, I have been I don't know, probably I've been rereading some poets whose work matters a lot to me, and Marie Howe is on that list. Um, and so her poem, The Gate, starts with, I had no idea that the gate that I would step to finally enter this world would be the space my brother's body made. And there's something, um, well, that whole poem is actually magic, for me in particular, because she does some things that I really like. It ends with this sort of this moment, you know, where she's having a conversation where someone's like this, and she's like this, and they're like this, you know, and I love what this means because it's kind of everything. And sometimes it's awful, actually. And sometimes it's like beautiful. And sometimes it's awful and beautiful at the same time. And so I've been sitting with that poem a little bit as I'm trying to write poems because everything feels so awful, actually. The larger stuff pressing in, and it just keeps getting closer and closer, the terrible things that our government is doing. Um, and so I liked starting with the line, the no idea that the gate, because we don't know yet. I don't know, you know, what thing will make the space for me to enter the poem that I'm trying to write, but also to enter what I need to enter to be fully present in this sort of version because we are on the cusp a little bit, like between the seasons. For me, I'm on the cusp. My fall is very different than my spring, I mean, than my summer, and I think lots of folks are. Um, and so, yeah, so it's kind of resonating with me right now for those reasons.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, I know that poem too. And yeah, it's critical. Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. And yeah, moving from there, kind of transitioning with the changes in seasons, if you could share about your recent publication wins, and also the interview with a shared friend that's coming up as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we do. We talked about this earlier. Sullivan's Summer, her chapbook just came out like a week ago, and I just got mine in the mail, which I'm gonna read for the Sealy Challenge. I don't know if you're doing that. This is my first time doing it. I haven't done it before, where you read a poem a day, which I'm not probably going to do that, but I'm going to try really hard to get through a bunch of books. Not a poem a day, a book a day. But she is a podcaster, Sullivan, for the New Book Network, which is such an amazing place to find new books. It can be a trifle overwhelming because they have everything there. But Sullivan's awesome. And I am actually going to be on her podcast. And then she is going to be on yours, right? Like, that's so cool.
Yeah,
Yay.
it's amazing, and I'm so excited to hear your episode. But yeah, and then please share about your publications.
Oh yeah, so I have a book. Doodly-doo.
Yeah.
Let me make it be in focus if I can. It's called All Is the Telling, and it's new. It came out in April, and the cover, my brother is a muralist down in Tampa, and he did it for me. And then my mom made a whole bunch of t-shirts because it's like her two babies, like
God. Oh, that's so great.
I know. Except now I have a whole bunch of t-shirts, like which is like I don't, like because I don't want to sell them, because I'm already asking people to buy the book, you know what I mean? Anyways, so yeah, so I have to give them away. And so yeah, it's a funny problem. But the book is largely about the stories that we carry, the ones we tell ourselves that remind us of who we are, that help us find our way back home. Yeah, it's been a fun journey. It's largely set in Florida because that's where I'm from. And it's been really fun. Like to have so like lots of poets, like you do all the public you try to get all these publications so that you can eventually make a manuscript. And then but with those publications you never know. Like eventually it just starts to feel like, the people at, Poetry Northwest are your readers, or the people at like Guernica or Rhino or whatever, whoever you're sending your work to. And now you have actual readers, like who you can talk to. Like I don't get to talk to those editors, but folks who do pick up the book, you get to have conversations about the work. But what's been really exciting is watching the book sort of go out on dates with people and then have all kinds of experiences that I could never have imagined because, again, people bring themselves to the work. So they see, like if you put a fence in a thing, they'll see a white picket fence or a chain link fence or the fence in their grandma's backyard. And that makes the work matter all the more, or in different ways, or in ways you can't predict. And I kind of love it. Like, I love that this is a thing that exists now, separate from me, that's out there doing whatever, whatever work it's doing. Hopefully, good stuff mostly. But yeah, I didn't know because this is my first collection. Like, I didn't know what it would mean, and I still don't 100%. Like, I don't know what it means to me yet because it's only been like a couple of months. But what it means for the work is really, really cool. Um, yeah, that's all. Like, so check it out if you feel like it, you know. But more than that, like if you are a writer who is like listening to this podcast, get your collection together. Take a break from sending the work out and do it. There are so many folks who have a book. Like they do, they have a book. They just haven't organized a manuscript, which is a job and a chore and a whole thing. Something that requires bravery, actually. But totally worth it because then you get to have this whole different kind of relationship to your work. And that's really cool and worth it.
Yeah, yeah. Let me let's dig a little deeper there. So it sounds like you're saying, and I agree. I think people have more than they think they do if they're writing. If somebody suspects that that might be the case, what would be your guidance for them to take that first step to see what they have?
Ooh, okay. There's lots of ways to put your poems into conversation, but thinking about, and some people might find this overwhelming, like everybody's brain, like sort of processes challenges differently or prompts differently. But I kind of like the idea of the book length poem. It's kind of, if you treat it simply, like don't overcomplicate it in your first like sort of pass, but thinking about if you wrote the list of all the titles of the poems you have, and then some people enjoy writing like the titles of the poems you think are still missing. Do you know what I mean? I knew somebody who did that and then wrote those poems, which I could never do. Like that's not how it works. But I like the idea of thinking, like if this is the list I have, and I have, let's say you have 50 poems and they're a page each, you might be short, for your collection. So you might need another 25 poems. Or you have 50 poems and they make something, but there's holes, like thinking about if you can look at them as a list, then you have an opportunity to sort of see what they make. And that's really fun. Another thing is to read poems that you think are in conversation and only read like the last line in the title, then the last line in the title, and the last line in the title, and see what that builds. It's a different way of making art. Like we have all these things, most of us who write and, like send work out and all of that have ways that we bring ourselves to the page already. But the book, I think, at least for me, required something different. It required me to think about the work in a really different way, but in a way that was really fun. Now, like now it's like, now that I look back, it's like, oh, that was so fun. The actual process of it was quite difficult, in the sense that, if you rearrange all those poems in a different order, you get a different book. And so how do you decide? And, like, so some of those kinds of things can get to be a little bit hairy. Um, but I don't know. I think if you think about it as a fun project to see what your poems equal, what do they make in the terms of an individual poem, not in the terms of like, do all of these lines, all of these titles become lines and then make a poem, but thinking about it sort of holistically, you might be really surprised by what you get. And you can break it down and do just sections and see what these things become. Um, but it's cool because you don't always know what you have, or, what it equals, or, if you think about it as doorways, it's an invitation to walk in a place maybe that you haven't before. And that's also scary, but also so incredibly cool because you're in charge, like you can make it safe for yourself. I don't know why I feel like I need to say that. But you can. And then the work goes out in the world and it does its work. And that makes all this labor totally worth it, even if you never know, even if you never get to hear somebody be like, whatever it is. Because I'm not saying people love the book. There have been a few people who do, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the book is meeting people again, sort of like on dates, like on dates. And people show themselves to the book, and then the book, I don't know what it does, but it does something back in return, offers them something in exchange for the intimacy that they're presenting. That's why I think dates not a bad analogy, because all of the books that we read that are poetry, most of them require intimacy from us. Like we have to bring that to the book in order to have access. Like I think that's true. Anyways, write a book. It's super fun. Give it
It
a try.
is, it is. And I'll double down and say, like, I don't know anything that's easy that is fun,
Yes,
and
that's right.
leaning into that difficulty in many different ways, but like the ways that you just named are ways that I haven't heard before. So
Oh,
thank you so much for sharing those. And Rosa, an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time and energy and the leadership you show the community is it's impactful. It means a lot. And yeah, just thank you so much for everything you're doing. I can't wait to see what you do next.
thanks. It's my pleasure. This is so fun. Yeah, and I'd say the same. I'm looking forward to seeing what you do next also.
A lot. I'm doing a bunch of stuff, but yeah. Yeah, just, all we can do is stay busy and fight good fights and
Yep.
it's a privilege and an honor to do so.
Yeah, no, it is.
100%. Thanks again. We'll
All
talk
right. Bye.